Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today I'm going to share something that was the bane of my fly tying, and it is dubbing. I'm going to show you 4 techniques. This is actually one technique right here. There's a second, there's a third, and then there's a fourth. So these are 4 very common ways to dub or apply dubbing to your flies. The only reason why I'm doing this is because in the next few months, you'll see me actually fishing with flies using cheburashka jigs and jigs or leadhead jigs tied with flies in them. And I have rods and reels that I use to do this, which actually gives me almost like the feeling of real fly fishing, almost, okay? And usually do this when it's windy. So it's a good way for me to actually still use flies while I am kind of conventional fishing. When the wind picks up and I'm not able to use my fly rods, this is my go-to. I've been doing this for quite a few years, and I've actually kind of refined the gear that I've been using. And instead of using soft plastics, which are great and all, it's just that there are some certain situations where it's easier to catch the fish with a fly more than it is with a soft plastic, because when it comes to like very subtle presentations, a fly is better, because even if you don't move it, it actually kind of moves. Now with soft plastics, they're good when they actually are in motion, but when they're not in motion, they're not that good. All right. So flies, there are certain situations where you actually end up catching more or attracting more strikes because of their lifelike movement, even when they're stationary. And the materials, depending on the materials that you use, they move and pulsate with just the movement of the water. And mind you, a lot of that has something to do with the legs that, or the dubbing that simulates the legs, especially when you're doing shrimp patterns. And this is the only reason why I learned how to dub. It's because it's kind of essential for really good shrimp patterns. And that's mostly what you will see me tie on these jig heads. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. And the easiest way to present this, I will actually tie this on this one right here. Okay, this is a flat piece of steel from a wiper blade. Okay, that way I'd be able to actually show you guys a few methods separated. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using today. Okay, the first method that I'm going to be using is, of course, the regular method. And you usually use this, you'll see me use this when I'm doing a dubbing for this part right here. Okay, I'm going to put a dub there, and that's used to separate the eyes. I'm going to put the antennas there, some legs and all that. And it gives it kind of like a base, sort of like the mouth of the shrimp. All right, so we're going to be tying it on this end right here. Okay, and I'm going to be showing you a few tricks. So pay attention. If you're new to this channel talks about the hows and whys of fishing. We cover everything from big game, ultralight, everything in the middle, including fly fishing. And today I'm showing you how to apply dubbing to your flies. Okay, a few months ago, or actually a couple of years now, not a few months ago, I have a video of me fishing with a jig fly that I tied using dog hair, and this is the same bag of dog hair I have here. I'll put it on this side right here so that you can see, or it's out of the way, but that's essentially what I am taking from. Okay, so I'm gonna take this out, put this here. So you're gonna need a brush, a dubbing brush. Also a bodkin. Okay, or in my case, it's a big ass needle. Okay, so you're gonna be using this to pick out fibers that are trapped when you're wrapping. Okay, so the traditional way of doing dubbing is with just a thread. Okay, take your dubbing. All right, here we go. And then I'm gonna zoom in so you guys can see exactly what I am doing. Right here. I had to change my shirt too, just so you guys could actually see. Because in the last video that I made for this, I was wearing something light. Alright, so dubbing, just like that, and then you twist. Okay, twist that so that it kind of forms a noodle on your thread. Like so, and then you turn, like that. That is it. That simple. Okay. Now, problem is, it's not always as simple as that. So, you use dubbing wax. Okay, so I'll give you like a very simple method. Okay, so dubbing wax. Okay, that's it. You can put dubbing wax. It makes the material stick to your thread easier. Another way is for you to actually spin it counterclockwise. Okay, I spin the thread counterclockwise. Okay, so you don't see it, but it's right here. Okay, I'm gonna spin it. And what happens is that if I spin it anti-clockwise, the thread is kind of unwound. And when I put the dubbing and I twist it clockwise, it kind of gets trapped. As the thread is applied, you're also applying it clockwise, so it turns on itself and kind of traps the fibers. And it makes it easier and makes your dubbing actually quite good. Okay, just like that. Then you take your needle, you pick out the fibers. Okay, that's one method. Okay, I'm just going to actually put half hitches here so that it gets locked, so that I can cut it. Okay, or you could actually use the dubbing brush like that, make it more buggy. There we go. Okay, so that's one method. Okay. Just adjusting here. Perfect. All right, so that's one method. The other method is actually something that I've learned by accident and something that I use a lot. Okay, so we're gonna put it here. Okay, so let us. Okay, so the second method is something that I use a lot, and with this method, I do not use what's this? The dubbing wax. Although, if you don't know it, dubbing wax makes it easier. Okay, so if you don't know what you're doing, just apply dubbing wax. But when I learned this, I learned it like this. So basically, I spread the as you can see there, I spread my my material, and then what I'll do is just I'll turn it. Okay, I'll spin it on the thread to form the noodle. Okay, and at this point, it's not gonna kind of look good. Okay, just turn. This, I think you see me do a lot because I don't really use dubbing wax a lot. So I'll turn it as much as I can, or spin it. And then what I do is hold the material loosely in my hand and then turn. Okay, like so. And what happens is that as you're turning, as you're winding, it will tighten up. Okay, so I will, so as you can see there, okay, I hold it lightly, and every time you turn, the material actually spins with the thread, and it just winds itself onto the thread. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, it does the same thing, and for me that was easier. That was easier. Dub that, and it's, or with the dubbing brush, it actually kind of does it the same way. Okay, as you can see. So first and second method, it really kind of depends on what you find for you personally easier. For me, this made it easier because I found it really difficult to do this, and I didn't have access to dubbing wax at that point, so made it easy. Third method. I don't really use this. Again, it's only because I don't use it, only because I don't use this thread a lot. Okay, but when you're tying with floss is, as you can see, flat. Okay, so what I do, or what people do, is split the floss. Where's that needle? There we go. All right, so use a needle, split the floss right through the middle, and it will form two strands. Okay, so split right there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, split right there. You can see it. See, two, from one, two, from one strand to two strands, because it's really multi-strand. Okay, then you put your material in there, spread it like so. Okay, and then your bobbin, you spin your bobbin clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. You just have to spin it, and you're basically tightening your thread, and basically spinning the material in the middle. Okay, like that. Okay, and then you tighten that, and then with your, okay, so it does exactly the same thing. Okay, it just depends on, for me it was access. Okay, accessibility. I did not have access to the tying dubbing wax, so I went with this method. I still do this today. This is like literally my favorite, or second favorite, and then this one I hardly use. this. Okay, but it's a good method. It depends on your thread. Now, the third or the fourth and final method, and arguably this is the method that I use a lot, especially now that I'm using braid. All right, so this is what I use, but you need a tool, okay, which is this one right here, okay, and this is DIY. I made this. There's a lot of instructions on how to do this. You could make one out of a sinker. Okay, so this is the dubbing loop method, and all it is you make a loop out of your thread, like so. Okay, and also this method is best if you have a bobbin rest, which is what this is right here. Okay, so kind of makes it go out of the way, and it's just easier to tie with this. Okay, I will also zoom out so that you can see. So it's here, and then we put the tool on like that. Usually put it on the side right there also, while I put on my dubbing material, okay, which is this right here. Thanks to Strider for providing us with this. I got this before King was around, so okay. So we spread our material as evenly and as thinly as possible, and then we spin. Okay, so you just spin this, and I'm pinching so that it doesn't transmit the spin. Okay, so I'm holding the line, and then once it's very tight, all I do is pull, and as you can see, that just automatically turns that. A few more, like so, and these things are not going anywhere. All right, just like that. And then this works well with a rotary vise, so all I have to do is just spin this like that, and you'll see me do this with shrimp bodies and right there. Okay, after which you just take your bobbin rest off, secure the line, and then cut your loop. Let's lock this in place with a couple of half hitches so you guys can see. All right, so with this, we round off the four. Now, let's zoom in so you can see. They're essentially kind of the same thing. Okay, so although I have dubbing wax, I don't really use this as much because it takes a bit of time. This is a bit faster for me. I don't really use a lot of flat tying thread, so I don't use this. But if also is the most time consuming, I believe. This one I use a lot, and this. All right, so let me explain now where I use them. So while I'm tying flies, this is also actually kind of done with the same of the four. Okay, so this is the first method. Second method is here. This is the third also, and then the fourth. So basically, I use this method and then this method, and I use this for this part right here when I'm building shrimp flies. This is the one I use for this bit where I tie the eyes, the antenna, and all that. So it's just faster for me. So while I tie, I just twist it and then bang, it's done. It's the fastest method for me. The body, I use a loop and I use this method. So basically these two are what I found easiest for me. Okay. So hopefully it's not too intimidating for a lot of people. I know that I got intimidated by this when I first started. And but when I saw that it was very essential to make shrimp patterns, that was it for me. That was it. I said like, okay, I need to learn this, and then here we are today. So hopefully this is not going to be very difficult for you. Follow these instructions and practice. Practice makes perfect. Okay. The last bit of advice that I can give is that new guys, new to this whole thing, will always put more materials when they tie flies in general. Okay. Now, shrimp are actually kind of translucent. They're hardly visible, and that's how they survive. So when you're making shrimp patterns, especially, put as little as you can get away with. That is it. The more that you actually put on, the more they become unrealistic. It's as plain and simple as that. Okay. The ones that I tie on YouTube are actually not the ones that I use, for the simple fact that the camera hardly picks up the amount of material that I put in, and it's more visible when I put in more. Okay. And if I actually, one day I might tie something just to show you guys, but that's a kind of a different video because we're not fly tying, right? But if I showed you a fly that I have the intent to use myself, they hardly have any material on them. So the more flash that you put in, the more it becomes unrealistic. The more material you put in, the more it becomes unrealistic. Just remember that, especially when you're using dubbing material. A little goes a very long way. Now, I just bought a packet of these, and this is angel hair. This little packet would actually last me years. Years! Even if I'm tying a lot of flies, but that will last me years. Okay? So, just a bit of a note when it comes to these things, especially when you're kind of new to this whole thing. You're already putting too much even before you put in. And it takes a bit of time for you to actually realize this. So especially with the dubbing, because when I first started this, my God, I was putting too much. And the amount that I was actually using here is exactly the same amount that I would be using when I'm tying flies. I just thought I'd show you that. Okay. Now, here's the thing. What you didn't notice also is that the threads are actually kind of visible. These two I tied with white. This one I tied with brown, and this one I tied with yellow. But if you can see this one right here, the thread is actually showing up. I don't know if it's the camera is picking it up, but the thread is showing up. So while you're doing this, you have to keep in mind also that this becomes transparent underwater. So instead of actually just putting like one color, you could actually do two. One is the thread color and one is your material color. And then it kind of ties everything down when you're putting it in a glass, and just seeing it, you'll see exactly how your shrimp is going to look like underwater. All right. So that's it for this. And I really hope this video is useful. I wish I had something like this when I first started out, because it would have really saved me a lot of time. All right. That's it. Now, if you haven't yet and you want to learn more, click on that subscribe button. And if you haven't yet, give this video a thumbs up too. If you've learned. All right. So that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.